He's so cute. He couldn't possibly be a yandere. There's no way being stuck in a cabin with this cutie pie would end in tears. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Espoir Duvid, and today I want to play day 1 of Chilling Devotion. Day 1. Unexpected Guest. Am I the unexpected guest, or is the unexpected guest going to find me? The car's engine purred softly as it glided along the snow-covered road, creating rhythmic hum that harmonized with the tranquility of the winter landscape. The world outside seemed hushed and still, as if nature itself had been silenced by a blanket of pristine snow. Ooh, pretty. Also, starting a visual novel inside a car, nothing bad ever happens there. Through the windshield, the scene unfolded like a postcard come to life. The snow-laden trees stood tall, their branches delicately adorned with glistening crystals. Each limb reached out towards the sky, as if yearning to touch the falling snowflakes. The weight of the snow bent some branches, creating graceful arches that framed the road ahead. As the car made its way through the winter wonderland, the snowscape seemed to stretch out infinitively in every direction. The vastness of the scenery was both awe-inspiring and humbling. You continue to look around in wonder from the warmth and comfort of your vehicle. For you, this is a whole new experience coming from a busy city life. Little Cub Cabin Retreat. It was advertised as the coziest escape in the heart of snowy mountain wilderness. Unplug and experience tranquility and the unforgettable views of snow-capped peaks and towering pine trees right outside your window. It sounded like exactly what you needed at the time, and you immediately booked a cabin for one, just for a week. You look down in its direction again. Turn onto Little Cub Trail, and it's the first cabin on the left. You slow the car as you approach a sign. Some of the letters of Little Cub peek out from under the snow. You turn into the trail, and your car bumps along the unpaved snowy dirt path. You look around attentively for the first cabin you see through the increasing snowfall. So much for the forecast of light snow today. Hopefully you get there soon, in case the snow gets worse. Ooh. You had been looking forward to this getaway for a couple of weeks, and finally you pulled up to a cabin. Now the idea of a private snowy cabin makes you lonely, relaxed, nervous, excited, unsure? Excited. I'm pretty excited. You're excited. You've been looking forward to this ever since you've booked it. Everything is so new and fascinating, and you've mentally planned out various activities you could do. From staying by the fire with a good book, or hiking to see some of the snow-capped peaks, there would be something for whatever mood you'd be in. Go find some birch trees and make some chaga tea. Maybe just catching up on sleep and resting would be enough to look forward to. You slow down and squint through the falling snow, trying to make out the numbers on the cabin. The snow had covered the signs. This one looks like the picture in the booking, so you pulled into the snow-covered path. You feel relieved to have finally arrived. The drive up the mountain was like Rainbow Road, and then the snow, while beautiful, made a more challenging drive. Your little cabin is surrounded by trees, with your nearest neighbor about another hour's down the trail. A large stretch of wilderness ensures you plenty of privacy. You hurriedly lug your stuff out of your car up to the cabin. It's not much, just a suitcase for the week. The icy environment chills the delicate skin on your face. You bound up to the cabin, eager to get out of the cold. It's already unlocked. Is this normal for remote cabins? Ooh. As you step inside, the warmth of being out in the elements immediately greets you, but it could certainly be warmer. You set down your things by the door and quickly set about lighting a fire in the fireplace. There's some wood and a lighter by the hearth conveniently. You take in the cabin's interior, and it's cozy as described, if not a bit more messy than expected. Did they not clean up the place? There's stuff laid out on the table. Am I in the wrong cabin? Looks like the place hasn't been swept in a while, too. Did I just burst into somebody's house? But it feels very lived in and ready to move in. The warm glow from the hearth dancing across the rustic wooden walls and furniture was cozy and inviting. Some books are resting on the worn wooden table and shelves. You hurry over to inspect the tiny kitchenette, and you're pleasantly surprised that it's fully stocked. Wow, it looks like mystery meat and a lot of junk food. We're just gonna glance over the mystery meat? Still, that's pretty generous of the people running this place. You had expected to get food later in town when the snow let up. It's a bit of a drive, but there's a small town with a grocery store around here. You can look more closely around the rest of the cabin later. Right now, you just wanted a warm drink. You look in the kitchen's drawers and find a couple of options to choose from. What do you drink? A hot cocoa. You grab a packet for an instant hot cocoa. Then, you find a pot and start to heat some water on the gas stove. It's been a while since you've used one of these. You check your phone and there's no signal. You do spot a landline on the cabinet if you need to call anyone. Been a while since you've seen one of those, too. Another reminder of how far from civilization you are. The pot of water simmers on the stove, and you pour some into a cup for your hot cocoa. The smell of hot cocoa fills the room, and the warmth from the cup warms your frozen hands. The window rattles suddenly, and you jump from your thoughts. The snowing from earlier has really picked up into a storm now, the heavy fall of snow blurring the landscape out of the window. The wind howls and rattles the windows again. The sharp, erratic bursts made you flinch every time. Snow now slams against the cabin in chaotic flurries. You wonder if the windows would hold against the storm's fury. That's a bit concerning, but it's a perfect contrast to the safety of the cabin. The cabin was a small sanctuary that was holding back the icy wilderness beyond its walls. Luckily, you have food here, and made it before the weather took a turn for the worst. Snowed in or not, you were planning on bunkering down here initially anyway. Just as you started settling in near the hearth with your hot drink, there was a knock at the door. You snap your head towards the sound, and you feel your heart racing with fear. You weren't expecting anyone, and the thought of a stranger out here in the middle of nowhere during a snowstorm sent a shiver down your spine. Maybe it was the cabin host, or someone that needed help. You set down your drink on the table gently, and look towards the door. What will you do now? Don't make me choose! Don't put a timer there! Wait a minute! Open the door, ask who it is, stay quiet, ignore the knot. Who is it? You try to calm your nerves while you wait for an answer. And an answer doesn't come. There's no peephole on the door, so you can't see who it is from the door. Eventually, you quietly sneak over to the window and try to peek out, but you don't see anyone. It's hard to see with the snow already frosting the glass and forming an icy crust along the edges of the panes. Whew. If you're listening to this with headphones, I highly recommend it, because the creaks of the snow is actually starting to make me chilly. Hopefully, whoever it was just left. Maybe they got the wrong place. Maybe I got the wrong place. As you're about to return to your seat, you hear the click of the lock. Time slows, and your body tenses from the noise. The hinges of the door creak open as the biting and cold wind rushes in. The snow briefly obscures your vision as it flurries towards you. Hi! This is totally his house, isn't it? Isn't it? And there, a tall, looming figure looms over you before you can act. Your mind races with fear and uncertainty. Who are they? What do they want? And how do they have the keys to this place? You take a hesitant step back, your heart pounding in your chest. You wait for them to speak, to move, to do anything. They just stand there, unmoving like a statue. His eyes glint faintly as they're fixed on you. The intensity is heavy enough to make you shiver. You can't help but feel trapped under his gaze. As you're about to utter a word, the stranger's voice finally cuts through the silence. It's a deep voice that matches his intimidating form. There's a slight southern drawl to it. What are you doing in my house? Sorry. Huh? The stranger's masked face remains unreadable as they shut the door behind them, sealing you both inside. The stranger pulls down his mask to reveal his face. He begins dusting off the snow from his clothes and goes to hang up his overcoat by the door naturally. Ah, crap, I'm sorry. I'd be so... How embarrassing.
I'm Jim. This is my place.
You stare speechlessly at this casual statement, as if he's not aware of the scare he just gave you.
What's your name?
I am Espoir. It means hope in French, as in I hope I don't end up in your refrigerator. My name is Espoir. He seems to notice your shock now, and gestures for you to take a seat by the fireplace. You stiffly follow his suggestion and sit down in a chair with a creak. He takes off his hat and dusts off the snow before following you and taking a seat as well. Hey, at least I got the fire started for you. You're both sitting by the hearth now after your misunderstanding. You feel a mix of adrenaline and embarrassment. Mostly embarrassment.
I'm real sorry about before.
No, I'm sorry. You think you're sorry. I'm the one who's sorry. I'm so sorry. I must have gotten turned around in the snow.
It's okay. These things happen sometimes.
You're a bit taken aback at the contrast of the man in front of you and your first impression of him. I'm still confused about what happened. That was the wrong sign, wasn't it? There was snow on it, and I got the wrong sign. Jim thinks for a moment and speaks more quietly, maybe more self-conscious about how his voice sounds. His voice still comes out as a low rumble.
Were you trying to go to that tiny bear house?
You mean the little cub cabin? Then, yes.
Right. You went way too far down the trail then. Probably missed it with all the snow and pines. Easy to happen when the snow gets like this.
Your face burned with embarrassment at your mistake and the whole misunderstanding. So much for a relaxing getaway. That makes sense. I'll leave as soon as I can. An awkward silence stretches between you two until Jim speaks up again.
I think the storm will pass in a couple of days. You can stay here until then.
A couple of days? As if you have a choice, but now you feel even more grateful after inconveniencing your cabin neighbor. At least he seemed to be nonchalant about the whole situation. Thank you so much. Jim nods, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips.
It can get lonely out here sometimes. Haven't had company in a long time.
You nod back, feeling a bit more at ease now that you know he's not some deranged stranger. We don't know that. If anything, you were the stranger in his house now, and yet he was being so welcoming. Jim gestures to the pot on the stove and gets up from his chair.
I'll have some hot cocoa too after all that. Want your hot cocoa reheated since you've helped yourself to some already?
You groan at any reminders of your unfortunate beginnings here. Then you smile gratefully. Sure, thanks. Things are still pretty awkward, but it was kind of sweet that he was trying to be a good host.
Oh, and feel free to put your things in the spare room over there on your right. My room's the one to your left.
Alright, let's see if my poor sense of direction doesn't mess that up.
It's not much, but you're safe here.
You smile at his reassurance and move to take your things to your room while he reheats your drink. The room is small, but just as cozy as the rest of the cabin. Simple with its furnishings, but it's all you need. It's minimally decorated like the rest of the cabin, but it has a bed, a nightstand, and a lamp. And now it has your suitcase and belongings in a corner. You sit down on the bed with a creak. The bed feels impossibly soft beneath you, urging your tense muscles from earlier to uncoil. You let out a long breath, and your hand traces absent-mindedly over the quilted blanket. Its fabric is warm, but comforting. What a situation. You hear the muffled clattering of Jim in the kitchen and snow battering against the walls. This was not what you had expected at all, but hopefully it'll be okay.
Your hot cocoa is ready.
Jim's voice from the other room pulls you from your thoughts, and you get up to join him. Okay. Burst in the dude's house, and now he's reheating my hot cocoa. You sit across from Jim as he hands you a reheated hot cocoa. Jim cradles his own mug in his hands, savoring its warmth before taking little sips. His posture is more relaxed, but still seems a bit shy. You get a better look at him now that things are less intense. His hair is damp and disheveled from the snowstorm, and he keeps it pretty long. His eyes flick to you occasionally, before glancing back down at his drink.
Sorry, I'm not used to having company, I guess.
What do you do? Apologize more? Let's ask him some questions. So, what do you do out here? What do you do out here?
I like to be in nature and be alone.
Sorry! Yeah, like hiking?
I hunt and fish when the weather's better. Sometimes I make stuff. There's a town a ways from here, but I mostly just keep to myself.
Is he blushing a little bit? His eyes dart nervously around, and you get the impression that he's not used to talking about himself like this. Oh, you decide not to get into it for now, for his sake, but you are curious. He seems like the type to say things when he's ready. So... No, I'm done. I'm not going to torment him. Yet. You're done asking questions for now. You both finish up the rest of your drinks in silence. Jim looks at you and finally asks you a question himself.
So, how are you feeling about being stuck here?
He quickly looks away again while anticipating your answer. He has a complicated look on his face. You wonder why that is. He's a hard man to read. Sorry. You'd like to stay here longer. Yeah, he wants to be alone. I want to be alone. I like it here so far, but I look forward to leaving. I'll leave you to your business, sir. I appreciate all that you've done for me, but I'd like to get to where I'm supposed to be as soon as I can.
I see. Of course, that makes sense.
You'll be happy to get along with Jim while you're here and go your separate ways when possible. You did come here for a private cabin getaway, after all. Jim looks back into the flickering embers of the fire and seems to be weighing your response in his head. You wonder what he's thinking. You can't bring yourself to interrupt his thoughts. You ultimately look into the fire, too. The dancing flames lull you into its trance as your mind wanders. The time flows as the sun disappears from the sky, and you both are left with a dying fire. At some point, you find yourself watching him. His features are softer in the firelight, warmer too than before. He looks much more friendly now that he's taken off his outerwear and is relaxing in his more casual outfit. He doesn't seem to talk much, but his voice carries a quiet intensity, like every word matters. He glances at you and catches you staring. You quickly look down at your empty mug, feeling the heat rise in your face from being caught. He doesn't say anything at first, but now you feel him observing you back.
What?
I mean, he is. Alright, maybe I should... Nothing, or you're handsome. I'm just going to apologize, because I still feel terribly embarrassed. Sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to stare. I was just zoning out. You were mindlessly staring for a little too long before you had even realized it.
That's all right. No harm, no foul. You can stare. I don't mind. You were just, kinda obvious about it.
He's surprisingly easygoing, despite first impressions. His words ease the embarrassment. Just a little. This embarrassment will never be eased. I get lost in my thoughts sometimes.
Well, who doesn't every now and then?
Jim looks into his empty mug, now cold.
Well, I think I'll call it a night.
Jim gets up and holds out a hand to take your empty mug from you, too, trying to be a gracious host to you. Oh, thank you. You give him your cup, too, and his lips curl into a small smile. He walks to the kitchen and places both your mugs in the tiny sink there with a clink. Jim goes over to the hearth and puts out the rest of the fire before heading to his room. You get up and walk over to your room. You peer out at Jim, closing the door to your room. Jim lingers by his door and glances back at you. Aww.
Okay, well, good night, Espoir.
Good night, Jim.
Again. Sorry. I am so embarrassed. It's going to be 10 years from now and I'm just going to be remembering this blunder.
Your door creaks as you close it all the way, and you turn towards what will be your room for the next couple days. That was much nicer than how your first meeting started. You change into your sleeping clothes and jump under the covers for warmth. The storm is still raging outside as much as it was earlier. You close your eyes, and soon the storm outside starts to sound like white noise. The events of the day are taking their toll on you. Mostly you feel...
I'm still greatly embarrassed. There's no ways around it.
You're still feeling so embarrassed about the events of today. First you miss your cabin, and then you break into a stranger's place, and then Jim. You pull the covers towards your burning face. It's all just too embarrassing. As you think about how you feel, you drift off to sleep, wondering what the rest of the week has in store for you.
Oh, okay. Okay, no shenanigans yet. This is only day 1. What happens if I'm a bit more flirty? Now, I don't mean this at all, because this is entirely my fault, but what if I scold him for scaring me?
You really scared me.
He looks down, even more guiltily.
Oh.
I've been told I have that effect on people sometimes.
Yeah, with the look and the silence and then that voice.
Hey, he can't help his look and his silence and his voice.
Oh.
You're a bit taken aback at the contrast of the man in front of you and your first impression of him. Yeah, I'll accept his apology, even though he has nothing to apologize for.
It's okay. It's all just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, but still.
Really, it's fine.
And entirely my fault. Okay.
Jim lets out a heavy sigh, but still looks apologetic.
Alright, sorry, Jim Bob. I gotta ask you some questions.
What were you doing outside just now?
Just checking some traps I set out in the woods nearby.
Traps? What do you mean?
Traps for small game like rabbits and such, mostly. Nothing in the trap today. Probably all hiding from the storm.
Oh, I see. That would explain the mystery game meat in the fridge earlier. You live out here all the time?
He glances at you, and then answers while looking into the fire. Used to be not all of the time, just when I needed to get away. But now, yeah, this is where I live.
His voice is steady, but there's something vulnerable in his tone, like he is not used to explaining himself.
Oh,
get away from what?
Everything.
Oh.
The noise, the people, it's just too much.
I understand. I get that. You nod, feeling a strange sense of understanding. It's the whole reason I'm here in the first place. I get it. It's why I wanted to come out here too. Just needed a break from it all. I wish I could be away all the time, but I have responsibilities. Jim's lips twitch into a faint smile, and for the first time since talking, his gaze holds yours for a while.
And instead, you end up in the wrong cabin.
Your cheeks warm as you let out a soft laugh. Yeah, not exactly the peaceful getaway I had in mind. You're surprised by the rich depth of his chuckle, despite how he tried to quiet it. It sends a pleasant warmth through you.
Well, I guess it's not every day you accidentally break into someone else's house.
The initial tension between you is melted away as you both laugh about it.
I'm still gonna be pretty embarrassed about it. I hope you do get what you came here for.
You can't help but smile at his gentle words. So,
the storm seems pretty rough, huh? Yeah, but it should calm down in a day or two. And if you want, I can make sure you get to the right cabin then.
I'd like that. For now, though, you're content to stay here. The quiet man in front of you doesn't seem as bad as you first thought. He seems so sweet. I might forget about the warnings that this game has. For now, though, you're content to stay here. The quiet man in front of you doesn't seem as bad as you first thought. Yeah, I thought I was gonna have to run from this guy day one. He seems nice. He seems so sweet.
The mountain weather can be unpredictable. One moment it's clear, then dangerous in an instant. It's snowing a bit early this year, but it's not uncommon. The snow falls hard and the wind, well, it howls like it's got something to prove.
You nod along at his explanation. You weren't aware of how it was in the mountains. He lets out a soft sigh before continuing, running a hand through his messy hair.
I knew the second I saw you that you weren't used to this. If you don't know what you're doing and you try to go out there, well, you're pretty much asking for trouble then.
So you mean when I eventually have to try and escape from this cabin? You notice a shift in his tone when talking about the storm. There's something protective about it, like he's trying to prepare you, or maybe even shield you from the wilderness of the mountain.
Just wait it out. Don't venture out if you don't have to.
The storm outside wails a bit louder for a moment, as if protesting, and Jim shifts his gaze out the window.
I've been stuck in here before. You just get used to it, and then it's not so bad.
You take in his words. You get the impression that he's used to navigating the chaos of the mountain, and with him, maybe you could too. So, you said you don't see many people around here?
Yeah, to be honest, you're the first person I've really talked to in a couple months.
Aww.
Other than when I'm picking up supplies in town.
He awkwardly shifts in his seat and rubs the back of his neck like he's unsure of how to continue.
I guess you could probably tell with how out of practice I am with all this social stuff.
He gives a dry laugh, but it's not exactly a happy one.
The isolation, it's easier this way, and I've never minded being by myself. It's peaceful. I don't generally like people, but it's been nice talking with you.
This admission lingers in the air as you both take it in. You're both touched by his openness and vulnerability at this moment. Well, I'm glad I could be the one you talk to. Jim smiles at this and takes another shy sip from his mug. A moment of warmth settles between both of you, and you feel a bit closer. So... Alright, that's enough. That's enough questions. You both finish up the rest of your drinks in silence.
So, how are you feeling about being stuck here?
What if I say I don't want to say anything right now? The facts are that you're going to be stuck here with Jim until the storm lets up. Either from uncertainty or not wanting to disclose your thoughts right now, you elect to not answer Jim's question. I couldn't really say right now. A flash of frustration passes by Jim's face. Aw, but he nods in response. He seems to be letting it go for now. Did that make him mad? Does he not like that I didn't say anything? Alright, what if I lie and say, oh, I can't wait to leave and get away from this guy? You're not going to say that out loud, are you, me? I'd really like to go the second the weather allows it.
Right. I'll make sure to let you know as soon as that happens.
It can't be helped that you're unwilling to be stuck here. So far, it's been okay, but you don't want to push your luck. He's still a complete stranger, and you don't want to be stuck in such a small space with him. You did come here for a private cabin getaway, after all. Jim looks back into the flickering embers of the fire and seems to be weighing your response in his head. All right, it's time for the flirting. It's time for the flirting. I would like to stay here longer. I actually really like it here. I could see myself spending my whole stay here, honestly. It's been nice having you as company. Aww.
I'll be honest, too. I've been liking your company, too. What I'm trying to say is, you could stay here longer, if you want. But you don't gotta decide now, and maybe your feelings'll change. Although, I am happy you feel that way right now.
Aww. You smile at his flustered but sincere response. You guess you'll have to see how things go.
Yeah, we'll have to see what day 2 is like.
He glances at you and catches you staring. You quickly look down at your empty mug, feeling the heat rise in your face from being caught. He doesn't say anything at first, but now you feel him observing you back.
What?
You're pretty handsome. I was just thinking how handsome you are. As the words came out of your mouth, Jim's eyes widen for a moment. His cheeks flush a soft shade of red, and he shifts awkwardly in his seat and looks back at the fire as if it can offer him some comfort.
Thanks.
He clears his throat and then raises his gaze slightly up to you again.
I, don't really get called that a lot.
There's something incredibly endearing about his genuine nervousness.
But, I guess I'll take it. It's very nice of you to say.
He lets out a slow breath and glances at you.
You're not so bad yourself, you know.
He's so cute. He couldn't possibly be a yandere. There's no way being stuck in a cabin with this cutie pie would end in tears. You change into your sleeping clothes and jump under the covers for warmth. The storm is still raging outside as much as it was earlier. You close your eyes, and soon the storm outside starts to sound like white noise. The events of the day are taking their toll on you. Mostly, you feel, attraction. Honestly, you're a bit attracted to Jim. He seems nice. He seems like a sweetie patootie. He has been not what you expected, and you're looking forward to learning more about him. As you think about how you feel, you drift off to sleep, wondering what the rest of the week has in store for you. Oh, how nice, how sweet. Thank you for playing. Let us know what you think so far on the itch.io page. Well, that was day 1 of Chilling Devotion. I was expecting something a lot more creepy right off the bat, but this is nice. This is sweet. We're stuck in a cabin and there's thankfully 2 beds. Now, I'm getting the feeling that Jimmy isn't going to be all that he seems, but right now he seems so sweet. He seems so cute. I can't wait to go check in rabbit traps with him in the snow. But if you would like to follow this game for any more development, there is always a link in the There's always a link in the description to the games that I play. And hey, if you would like to help out my channel or see more amazing visual novels, feel free to peruse my channel. You may just pick up a new fictional crush or 2, and be sure to like, subscribe, or interact in any way that is comfortable for you, as we're trying to make it to 100,000 subscribers. But anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Take care of yourself, have a great night, and remember, there is always hope.